Hi everyone, welcome back to My Perspective. Today we're doing part 2 of our interview or conversation with Hannah. Welcome back.
Hi guys, thanks for having me, Shelby.
We haven't left, we're still sitting
Yeah,
here.
we're in the same spot.
I'm going to give a trigger warning for all my lovely people out there. We're going to be talking about disordered eating, mental health, body image. Please, please, please. I have plenty of other episodes if you think this is going to impact you in a negative way. Obviously not our intention. At least like my intention going into this episode is sharing that not everybody is perfect. I personally think this topic is not talked about enough, or it's only talked about from the people of I've overcome it and I'm definitely in the thick of it, and I've never talked about it before on the podcast because I didn't think it was right, but I think with Hannah it's a great conversation. If you haven't listened to the first episode, Hannah and I talked about our friendship, but if you didn't, Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hi guys, I'm Hannah. I go by Nourished Girl on all of my social platforms, and I share about health and wellness. I'm in my master's program right now for holistic nutrition science. This year I've been leaning a lot into sharing about my eating disorders, my anxiety. I started anxiety medication. I started therapy. So I've been trying to be as open as I can about that on there.
Since like being friends with you, I was so proud of you to first share this. Like honestly, within even the past year, I like personally have struggled with eating disorders and my body image since I was a little girl. And I feel like I can just notice it in other people who are struggling. So seeing like before my eyes someone like go to therapy, openly talk about it on social media, which is so dang scary, like as your friend, is the coolest experience.
Thank you. It is really hard, and I feel like in the last 6 months I've just not trauma dumped on my Instagram, but I have just spilled so much all at once, it feels like. But you have inspired me so much to do that, because I have had friends with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and all of that, and those have been like not healthy for me. But with you, it feels like we're both in a spot like, yeah, we haven't completely recovered. I just feel so seen with you, and I feel motivated to get help. Shelby inspired me to go to therapy. She didn't push it or anything. It was just, she has normalized all of these feelings for me so much. So as your friend, I appreciate you for doing that, because it's helped me a lot.
My journey has been so up and down, where like at one point I did consider myself recovered. Just know like there is a better way to live, and like in the moment it seems like that's never gonna happen. And the best thing I ever did was go to therapy and like talk about it with someone who understands and has seen hundreds of other people just like me.
Therapy has been interesting for me because I've only been doing it for a month, and I didn't know what to expect. But I've realized like how therapeutic it is just telling someone. Like that doesn't know me, that doesn't owe me anything. I don't have any walls when I talk in therapy. I can just say whatever I want about food, about my body, about anything. But really, like, I've never talked about this before on a podcast, so we've gone back and forth about talking about this on Shelby's for like so long, it feels like. But I just know like our intention is to just help people not feel alone too.
Yeah.
And like I also want to share, like, you can be successful and have a great life and great things about your life, great relationships, but like still struggle in ways, and that doesn't mean like you don't have to be like one or the other.
Yeah.
You know,
I think like the picture of struggling with an eating disorder is so drastic in the hospital. You know, there are so many people that are in the in between. Like just like for myself, for the longest time felt like, oh, I don't have one because I'm not thin enough. The majority, literally probably 90% of eating disorders are not underweight. That's why so many people don't get help. They think they're just making up it in their head, or it's not important enough, or like literally like I had a therapist like gaslight me, being like, what are you talking about? You look fine.
Yeah, like,
and it's like, it's a mental health disorder.
People gaslight you about it, and you gaslight yourself. You've told me that, like, not feeling thin enough to have an eating disorder, and when you said that, I was like light bulb in my head. That's exactly how I felt, and I think that's why I haven't gotten help until this year, because I don't look thin enough that I've seen shown on social media, like in the hospital, and that's what I have equated to an eating disorder. And I think there's such a stigma. But like you said, so many people with eating disorders aren't even underweight.
What's been described to me the best is like if it's impacting the quality of your life is when it's not healthy anymore. And also like the spectrum of disordered eating to like having an eating disorder is like really wide as well. So we're not like telling everyone like you have an eating disorder. It's just like it's more widely common, I think, than people talk about. Or even like you're struggling so hard and you haven't been able to put a word on it, or like you think what your bad habits are fine.
It's really interesting because I remember telling you this last year, but like I have never wanted to label things for myself just because I thought that was going to keep me stuck. But actually, like addressing that I have eating disorders this year has been the most healing ever because it's given me a reason to like do something about it. It's not just like in my head and something that like I deal with and is a part of me. Same with my anxiety. Like it's a thing people go through. It's not normal, but you're not alone in it.
Yeah.
It's not just your own thing that like you're isolated with.
You're not the first person to ever go through this, and there are tools for you to get better and like manage it. And when we don't talk about it and when we internalize everything, like that's not going to do you any good. It's just going to make you feel less or more and more alone.
I just am so glad we're talking about it because I'm not even close to recovery. But that doesn't mean I'm not like working on it. It doesn't mean I'm not aware. I feel like so many people that I've wanted to have talk about it, they've only talked about it when they're out of it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And like they're in a good place with it. But it's also like a lot of people aren't out of it yet. So it's like, how do we navigate that? How do we know what tools to use? How do we know like how we should feel or go about it?
And I think the mindset of when you're out of it, it's a lot different. So it's like, why is it taking me so long? How did they recover and I didn't? Why am I still here? What's wrong with me?
Opening up about it is hard enough and it's huge and it's like awareness is key, but getting into the nitty and gritty, as hard as it might be for the person sharing, it's so valuable as a listener. And like, it's what I've craved so much. I just need someone to put it into words. That's all I need. And you've done that a little bit for me, and it's been very like helpful just because you're articulating things that I've never been able to.
I've been in therapy since my freshman year of college, specifically for eating disorders. I was very fortunate that they had an eating disorder program at Cal Poly. I've gotten a lot of awareness from my therapist and like books and dietitians that have helped me. And there's like so many things I was doing I didn't realize was like a part of diet culture, a part of like just wanting to be thinner, impacting my life because everybody around me was kind of doing it too. So it's just normalized when really it's unhealthy.
Yeah, I feel like talking about it with someone who's not in it is like key.
Yeah.
Because they're going to give you an actual perspective rather than you being in it with like-minded people that are just normalizing it when in reality it might not be.
Or you've been doing it so long you think it's normal. When do you think your journey, or like you notice like, oh, I'm struggling with food or like I'm struggling with my body started?
I would say probably 2 years ago when I started my healing journey. Getting off birth control was like so good for me, but it triggered everything that I've dealt with for 2 years. So I've dealt with restriction and stuff my whole life, but actual like intense eating disorder didn't start until I started healing the root causes of I have a hormonal imbalance and just deal with stress and anxiety and stuff. But I went off birth control because it had me gain like 20 pounds plus. I just like hated my body so much. So I went off of it. I was just in such a mindset of I gotta lose weight. And even when I dropped my birth control weight, it wasn't enough. And I was craving something that I have yet to achieve. Part of me thinks I'm more unhealthy being off of the pill than I was on the pill just because of how my stress and health has declined. And it's all because of my mind, which is insane.
You were hyperfixated on it. I relapsed my eating disorder my summer going to my junior year when I got off birth control too. I wasn't trying to lose weight. I was just trying to do what was right for my body because I was actually content at the time with what I looked like. I was like in such a good recovery mindset, but it was like a slippery slope of like, I downloaded the app Yuka. Do you know what that is? So I originally got it for skincare because it like checks your skincare to make sure it's not toxic, which like great intentions, like not having hormone disruptor, because I was like so into hormone health. I have a lot of black and white thinking. Being obsessed with like all my skincare being perfect then slowly trickled into my food being perfect. And it really all was in the name of health. Like I wasn't trying to lose weight, and that's what messed with my brain the most because I wasn't trying and it was affecting my health negatively. And then once I found out I lost weight, I then wanted to lose weight because I knew I had, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so close to like how much I weighed in high school.
Don't chase your weight from high school because that's just not, your body changes so much, especially as a woman. And like I chase my, like of course I say that, but then I do it too. So like I understand, but it's just,
it started pure intentions, turned super unhealthy, and like I completely relapsed my eating disorder. What messed with me the most was like it happened and I didn't even know.
And that's what's scariest. And I think that I completely relate to that. Like when I started my healing journey off birth control, like I looked at food as it was either going to hurt me or help me. It was purely like medicinal. I wasn't enjoying my food. I don't enjoy my food really now. It's just I look at it as, is this going to help my hormones? Is this going to make me break out? Is this going to make me gain weight? Like, it's very not, I'm not enjoying it. And like, it's become my personality. Health and wellness and healing has become my full identity. And I don't like that because there's so much more to you than just you trying to work on yourself.
There's so much more to you than what your skin looks like, than what your weight like how much you weigh. It's a hard thing because it's also like your major, what you're going to school for, and what your job is. And it's like, how do you separate yourself from all of that?
I've talked about that in therapy. She was like, wait a second, like you have eating disorders and body dysmorphia and all this stuff, but your whole life is surrounded by health and wellness. Even your friends are into health and wellness. Like, where is the balance? And I'm like, I don't have it. You're completely right. It's what I do for school. It's what I'm going to do for my career, post about on social media, and it's like, it's not my identity. As much as I've tried to make it, there's more to me as a person. I just have to figure out what that is. I think just trying to be around people that help bring a different perspective with me. I was just with a friend a couple weeks ago, and she's not into health and wellness at all. She doesn't, I mean, we've never talked about my eating disorders. I don't know if she struggles. It was so refreshing because we didn't talk about it. I didn't feel like she was watching me eat. I didn't feel like anything. And it was such just like a total like mental relief. And it was my first like, oh wow, like I need to incorporate more of this into my life.
I think it's like going back to what were you like before all of this? Like, what did you actually do for fun? That's why it's so important to have different types of friends, because like you need that friend who's just like nothing,
just not
like,
into it.
Yeah,
she might ask me questions or something, but it's just she's not into it, and I don't have to feel pressure to like keep up with something, you know.
Having friends who have a normal relationship with food is the best thing ever.
It was crazy, like seeing people just not think about it and just eat what they want and not have to walk after, not have to, you know, detox their body now. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, what? Like, how are you real?
My safe space in high school and stuff was going to Max's family's house because they ate meals together. They got seconds if they wanted seconds. Also, just having a boyfriend in general. It's healing to be around people who don't give it a second thought, and they are just eating intuitively, naturally. And yes, like they're trying to make like healthy choices, but it's not the front of their mind constantly.
I think thinking about like friendships or relationships like where you do like have mutual struggles, I think it's really important to be aware of, okay, is this going to be supportive or is this just going to keep you down and like keep you in it? I've tried to really think about that. Like, am I enabling someone? Is she enabling me? Or is it like we're kind of inspiring each other?
In college, I talked about friends a lot in therapy because I've had so many friends struggle with their body and food. I mean, we're girls, like it's sadly common. I remember like talking about you. I was like describing like my different friends, and I was like, this was like before you even talked to me about it. And she like asked me about our friendship, and I was like, we don't talk about it in a negative, like I don't think we're competitive in any manner. And was what was wrong in the other friendships. Like, we enabled each other and it became really toxic. What was so great about our friendship, like even though we both struggle with what we look like and what we eat, we're just like there for each other, and like we get it. I understand exactly like where you are sometimes, and I think we both have encouraged each other. Like, obviously, like the therapy thing, opening up on social media, stuff like that is all positive things.
I think you have to be so careful and just like so honest with yourself, because what you're saying, like I completely like agree with, but it's also like we're human. We probably catch ourselves, and you can't really avoid that. I think especially if you're dealing with eating disorders, like it's just what you focus on. It's a control thing. But I think like big picture, we're both just so understanding, and like I'm so sensitive to your situation, and I know like we're both internalizing our own things so much more than like focusing on each other. Because like what I think of myself with like eating, I don't think about with other people. It's like I am not hard on other people with their food choices. I'm just so focused on mine. So
that makes sense. How has it like changed over the past 2 years? Even like when you said like you struggled with restriction a lot like younger. Do you even know like where that stemmed from?
Well, so I got diagnosed with a dairy allergy when I was 3. So right from there, I mean, I totally don't remember when I was 3, but all of the sudden I was not eating foods that I craved. I would see really good foods in front of me and I couldn't eat it. Going to birthday parties, never had cake, never had pizza. I would just sit there, or I'd bring my own thing. But going to friends' sleepovers, like parents at the time, like there was no dairy-free alternatives really, and like parents didn't know what allergies were. Like it's crazy, but I'd bring a grocery bag full of food. It gave me so much insecurity, but it became my identity. A lot of my friends associated me with my allergy. Just that restriction was so normalized for me, and it's just carried through over the years. Like I don't eat food to like enjoy it. It's food.
It's there because you
and
need
I
it.
don't like that, because food is like amazing and it tastes good, and like it brings people together, and you can like holidays, like it's great, but I just don't have that mindset with it now, and I don't like that. But it's just been so like deeply rooted in me. But like absolutely in the last year, the eating disorder has like skyrocketed, never like before.
Why do you think that is?
I live at home with my parents. I live in Tahoe, which is a really small town, and I spend a lot of my time by myself. As much as it's my safe space and comfortable, it's really unhealthy for me because all I do all day is pick myself apart. So I think that over time living at home, this will be my 3rd year living at home, it's just been really just like a mental game with me. Like, what can I fix today? What can I control? I deal with mental health and anxiety, and that's so out of my control. So I feel like the eating disorder and body stuff is so in my control, even though it's not. Things that happened to me this year were just insane with my health, like really freaked me out. My body is listening to my mind. I gotta shut up. I'm toxic. Like, I'm so toxic to myself.
You talk to yourself so meanly.
So meanly. It's like, for what? Like, I look at pictures of myself, like especially doing social media, I'm always looking at old pictures of myself or videos, and I'm just so sad because I'm like, why am I so freaking mean to her? It's so stupid.
Every year I struggle with an eating disorder or like hate how I look. I'm like, I just know when I'm older, I'm going to be like, I wasted all these years. Like, what could I have done with that time? And what type of person could I be if I didn't like, I would be so much more confident. Like, I feel so insecure, and it's my own doing.
How much energy do you spend in a day, like thinking about just like how much you don't like yourself or anything about your food or your body? And it's like, if you weren't spending so much energy doing that, like think of like all the stuff you could be doing. And we're in our prime. Like when you're in your 20s, 30s, whatever, like you're in your prime. You're never going to look so good. Your skin's going to be like young, and you need to like honor that and enjoy it, because it's not going to always be that way.
When were you like, okay, this is enough, I need help?
Well, I got an ulcer in January from my own doing, so that was really scary. If you've never had an ulcer, it's good, because you shouldn't when you're 20, 22.
What's an ulcer?
It's basically, I mean, I'm going to butcher it, but from what I have gathered, it's just some kind of bacteria that gets in your whatever stomach, I don't know, and it's very painful. For 2 weeks, like I could barely eat. I was in a lot of like abdominal pain. It was insane. Like I can't imagine going through something like that again. But more recently, I like almost fainted, which is just crazy. Like I never thought that would happen to me. It was extremely intense, and I didn't know what was happening. My hearing was going out. I was getting dizzy. I was sweating a lot. My vision started closed. Like it felt like my eyes started closing. I'm like, holy crap. When you're in it, like you don't understand like what you're doing. I don't calorie count, but I can't even imagine like what I had to do to like almost faint. You know?
Yeah. Like, how long has your body been deprived for it to start shutting down?
Mm-hmm. And my parents, like I live with my parents, and they had to see that. That was embarrassing. I'm embarrassed of how I treat myself. So I think that's motivated me a lot to like just start talking about it and like opening up to people, especially my family, because I don't want this to be just like such an isolated thing for me anymore.
Yeah. When I went back to school after winter break, I had very nonchalantly mentioned I passed out. And my doctors obviously were like, oh, you can't come here anymore. You're too high risk for our small little eating disorder program. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? No, I'm not. I literally was like, it's not a big deal. And they forced me to go to outpatient. And like, you were the first person I think I told.
Really?
I didn't tell anyone at school. I lost friends because they were like, where are you going every day? Like, I literally just wouldn't accept it for the longest time, but I knew I needed therapy. I knew I needed help and a dietitian, and they wouldn't let me go anymore because they're like, you obviously like need more help, and like this is serious and you're not taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because passing out, feeling lightheaded is a big deal. And like that's the part of like not feeling thin enough comes in, because it's like I read the book Sick Enough. It explains all the health issues you can have from every type of eating disorder that maybe people don't see that are actually really detrimental to your health versus just being underweight.
I've seen that in my own health. I've struggled with not having a period forever since I got a period when I was 13. My eating the last couple of years, I've been trying to get my period back like on my own because I went on hormonal birth control originally to like regulate it. So when I went off, that was the big thing in mind. I need to get my period back on my own. But I've realized like I have to eat enough for that. My stress needs to be down to have a period. It's not just like gonna happen from some supplements. So it's just crazy though, seeing like all of the things that can manifest from you not eating. Maybe you're not even underweight. So like, what's the point?
Yeah.
This isn't doing anything, especially if you're chasing something, you're just never going to get it. Not because it's not attainable, but because your version of like what you want is going to change.
Yeah, and it's never going to be enough.
Even when you're at your smallest, you're not going to think you're at your smallest. And you'll look back at pictures and be like, oh my God, I was so small. And you're going to be mad at yourself.
That's exactly how I felt. I was like, yeah, once they told me how much I weighed, I'm like, oh, I just want to lose more. There's a reason why you can't lose weight. It's because you're not feeding yourself enough, and it's like famished.
Yeah, you shut down, and then it starts going in like starvation mode.
Yeah.
You know, and your cortisol increases and things. I haven't weighed myself in I don't even know how long, and I'm so scared because I'm going to the doctor next month. I finally got a primary care doctor, and I am like already planning in my head how to tell the person, don't tell me my weight out loud, because you get on the scale and then they, you know,
write
oh,
it down.
blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going to have to say, don't say it out loud.
You can turn around.
Just like verbally though, if they say it. That's happened to me before. Like someone might be a certain weight, but they look like a certain way. Like it doesn't always equate with the person. And I think it's just like their height and their genetics and stuff.
Talked about that recently in therapy. They asked like how much I weighed all throughout since I've had an eating disorder, and I gave them the weight I was in high school at my smallest, and she was like, well, how tall are you? How tall were you? I'm like, oh, I don't remember. I was really small, like short. So it's like, literally, why am I chasing what I looked like in high school? Because I was probably 5'2". Like, I am 5'6" now. It's actually not possible.
Are you 5'6"?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well,
I didn't know I was taller than you. I'm 5'8".
Yeah, you're taller than me.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go me.
No, I wish I was taller. I don't know. You're just like growing up. Your body changes. We get taller. Like we literally change from like pre-period puberty going into your 20s.
I hate
and then,
being
like,
a woman.
in your 30s.
I literally hate it. Like, why do we? It's like I always see the graphs of like what women's hormones go through like a month, and then like a guy, and it's just
straight.
It's like, what do they do for us? They don't have babies. What do they do?
Why did they get the easy life?
Like, literally, I hate it. I don't like how I've been trying to be in control of my weight for so long, and it's like sometimes if I'm too stressed or whatever, I'm not going to lose weight.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to puff up. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to go on different medication. Like, so many things are just out of your control with your weight. And your hormone levels, too. Like, that's a huge factor. When you're in your, luteal phase, aren't you, like, more like water retention? Water retention is the worst. And not being tan is the worst. If you're pale, okay, yeah, for pale people, they understand. If you're not tan, it's like, oh my God.
With the water weight, like when I went on birth control, I gained 30 or 40 pounds or something. And like, that wasn't fat. Like, I didn't gain 40 pounds of fat in like a couple of months. Like, it's all water weight.
If the gynecologist told you that, did they tell you weight gain was a side effect?
No.
See, same.
And then I went to the doctors and they told me I was pre-obese.
I feel like that's a side effect people should know. Not because it would deter someone, but it might. Like, it does impact your mental health so much. Yeah. So, like, it's good to know.
I was perfectly fine prior. I mean, it did make my skin beautiful.
Not mine.
That's why I went on it. There are other options that they just don't tell you about. Like, they tell you you're going to gain maybe 5 pounds. Everyone would take it if it's just 5 pounds. No. I almost gained like another half of me.
Right. Even 5 pounds though, like that can make or break for someone.
Yes.
You know, like I went on Lexapro in January and I didn't even look up if weight gain was a side effect, and I feel so dumb for even doing that because it was just such a waste of time. But I did gain like a couple pounds, I think. Just like I could tell like my pants were like fitting me different. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no. Like, it gave me so much PTSD from birth control. I'm like, absolutely not. This is not worth it. So I switched. But I just think, like, always look up side effects because a doctor might not tell you. Yeah. But you need to do your own research if something is going to, like, trigger you.
Especially with society puts so much pressure on what we look like. I also think, like, social media impacted my relationship with myself a ton. Literally all I see is thin people all the time.
I've had to set so many boundaries with that because there's a lot of people that have, like, inspired me, I guess, on social media, but it's for the wrong reasons. And it's very triggering to follow people that like you just envy or want to look like. I've had to unfollow so many people because of that, because it's not inspiring me in like a healthy way.
Yeah, it's like I'm not you. I'm never going to look like you.
And you're
like,
never going to look like them.
No.
And they're never going to look like the people they look up to. I always think about that sometimes. Like, there's people they look up to that they don't think they look like them, which is crazy to me.
What's been really helpful is our perception of people in the world is really skewed. Like, my best example is going to Disneyland. The average person is at Disneyland. Like, there's all different types of bodies there. Not every single person at Disneyland is thin, but when I look at social media, every single person is thin.
It's so true. I think about that when I go to LA, because it's like, that's not real. I went to Vegas last summer and I was at the pool and I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm in Vegas. Like, it's going to be all like really skinny girls. It was normal America. And I'm telling you, everybody's just in a bathing suit and it's fine. Like, people might be insecure, but it's just what we see on social media isn't real.
Yeah.
At all. And it's not something I think should be normalized, because it's not attainable.
Actually, something that's been helpful is like following people who aren't thin. Like, I read a book called Just Eat It. At the end of the book, they like list a bunch of influencers or just like Instagrams to follow of like normal sized people, so you can like change your judgment against people and like not only follow thin people.
It's really interesting you just said that, because a lot of people I've been like more inclined to watch, like on YouTube especially, I watch a lot of vlogs. They are just normal people. And they never talk about their weight. They might be insecure. I have no idea. But it just helps me desensitize, or is that the right? I think like desensitize myself from like what is like the focus. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm watching someone who's super thin in like a video or on social media, all I'm personally thinking about is their body.
Obviously, working out is great for your body and your mental health, but I can't also control like who the instructor is, what girls show up to the class, but I still compare myself in the mirror.
The mirror is really hard. I have a yoga studio and it's like all mirrors. And sometimes I do know, like, I think that's when you just have to have your own like little toolbox and like your own like awareness to be like, because I know when I go to yoga, if I'm having a bad day with my body, to not be in the front and looking at myself.
That's smart.
Because I know if I'm in the back and just like in my zone, like, I'm going to feel so much better. You don't have control over that stuff. You don't have control over who's going to be teaching your class, or in our nature, if we deal with this stuff, to like focus on those things, but like to just help yourself and support yourself and do things that you know aren't going to hurt you. I think is important.
What's been like the hardest part for you? Struggling with it, or like getting help?
Getting help was really hard because it was like embarrassing, I think. And it was especially hard to talk about it like and finally say it to my parents. But once I did, it was so freeing. The hardest thing I struggle with now is just figuring out like how I want to go about recovery, because it's very scary. I think also just quieting my own mind. I'm trying to take like a lot of things to quiet my mind because it just doesn't shut up. Just trying to figure out like how to recover and not, because I think there's a bad stigma with me with recovery that it's going to be total opposite. I'm eating unhealthy. I'm much bigger size than I am now. My therapist asked me in our last thing, she was like, is there a fear food that you have that like we could start to incorporate, like that you're open to? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, well, like, at least you're honest. And I'm like, was that bad that I said no? And I'm like, oh, but that's how I feel. Like, I don't want to introduce foods yet that I'm scared of.
It's exposure therapy, like, is like how they go about it. Something for myself, when I was like in the eating disorder program, there's like once or twice a week we'd have to incorporate a fear food at a meal, and obviously you're sitting there in front of everybody and you have to introduce like what you're talking about. But mine is a lot of ingredients. I can eat something that like I deem unhealthy, but also I was picking things that like weren't that scary to me. Like, I wasn't like going and getting McDonald's. Like, I literally was like, oh, this has one little tiny ingredient that's like whatever to me, but I'm eating it, I'm fine. But then after is like when I freak out. I didn't really do well with that program. I didn't finish it. To be honest, I thought it was actually more restrictive for me because like there's rules and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the answer like how to recover, but it's scary to introduce foods you wouldn't normally eat.
I feel like with me, like, I'm so ingredient too. Like, if I always have to read an ingredient list and there's a little thing, I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. But if I do, I freak out. And walking pads are such a thing now for people. What I was telling you today, like, be careful, because it's completely ruined everything for me in so many ways. Because I'm like, it's got me in repetition of like eating and walking. My parents see it. It's so crazy. Like, I don't know what they think, but it's like I can't eat without walking. Yeah. And that's because I equate it to, oh, I'm balancing my blood sugar. Oh, I'm using my, glucose that I just got from my food. Like, I'm using my energy. Yeah. And it's like, no, you can just eat and sit. And I've talked about that before, like how uncomfortable it is. It's part of the exposure therapy that you were just talking about. Like, it's very important to figure out how to deal with that stuff.
The more you do it, the less it gets scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the whole, I think I explained this to you like a long time ago, was like, and my dietitian didn't even tell me this. They told someone else that told me. We have like our green foods that are like super safe, like we'll always eat those, and then after the green foods, like think of it as a circle, then there's the yellow foods that are like sometimes we'll eat but are still kind of scary, like we rarely will eat them, and then there's the red foods that like, hell no, I am not touching that. For myself, I spiraled one time because I ate a bag of hot Cheetos and that was like considered a red food, and it's like because I did such a big jump is where I freaked out versus like going to the yellow foods first and not freaking out as much because it's not that scary. Mm-hmm. And the more you eat the yellow foods, the bigger your green circle gets, and then like the red foods turn to yellow.
I like that.
That makes sense.
What do you think about this saying? Because I feel like in the health and wellness space especially, everybody says food is fuel.
At first, it really helped me changing the mindset of food morality, of like thinking some foods are better for you than others, or like I'm healthier because I eat this and you don't. And like thinking of food like this is literally what's getting me through the day. The more, also like I used to calorie count at that point. That was a while ago, but I thought of like, oh, the more calories it has, the more energy it will give me. Now, I feel like my mindset's so different. And like what's been hard for me this time around is like I kind of took both my eating disorders and combined them, and now it's like a bigger monster. I'm so confused on what to do, and I only knew how to manage one, and now I'm like, what the, like this is so much worse the second time around. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I've always equated it to, like, I understand it, and I'm sure I've said it on my Instagram just to kind of, because it is true, food is fuel, but I think it's also along with like the body positivity. Like, to me, I don't believe in it. Like, for myself, I could say it all day. I love my body. I'm body positive. Food is fuel. Food is energy. But I don't believe it. Yeah. So I think for other people it can be so healing, and I want to promote that because it's true and people should like feel that way. But for me, I'm just like, okay, that's BS, kind of.
And that's how I kind of felt with dietitians and them, whatever, trying to like deconstruct my thoughts. It's like, it's so ingrained in me. Like, this is gonna take pounding the idea over and over and over again for me to let it go. I hope that happens soon.
It's just crazy. Like, when you're in it and you just like normalize it, but then someone telling you like, and trying to kind of peel back stuff for you and just really get back to like, that's not normal. Yeah. But then at the same time, my mind goes, well, I don't want to be unhealthy. Yeah. Like, I think of America and like the Western diet, and I'm like, that's not normal to me. Like, we shouldn't like aim for that. But it's also a good reminder that like, you're not going to be perfect with your food, especially with our food in America. Like, we know it's not good quality. We know it's like, you know, whatever ingredient, I don't know.
It's hard because I want to be perfect. I want all my food to be perfect. I used to say like 80-20, and I thought I was living by that. And then when I went back to school that my junior year, my dietitian was like, well, where's your 20? Yeah. Like, if you're saying this is your lifestyle, where's the 20? I'm like, oh, I'm saying have the 20, have the balance, but I don't have any.
I think I loved the 80-20 rule so much more. Like, I resonated with that a lot better than the food is fuel saying, because 80 is a lot to me. Mm-hmm. So it was like, cool. Like, yeah, 80% is whole foods, nutrient dense. And then 20 is like when I go on vacation and I want to eat something, but I didn't do that. So it's like, where was the 20? Like you just said.
Like, you say you like it, you want it, but then when it actually comes to the time, it doesn't
like
exist.
You don't even eat it. Yeah. Or it's like in front of you, or it's like you have an opportunity to eat it and you don't. It's like, okay, well, I remember like for years I haven't had birthday cake. Like, I don't do it. And last year was the first time I had like the slice with you, and it's just like, why? What is that doing for me by not eating birthday cake? Like, that's not helping me lose weight. It's one day. And I always think about that. Like, one day isn't going to break it for you. Yeah. You can like go and enjoy something. And I wish I was more, I'm trying to lean into that more. I was just on a trip with my mom. We went to New Orleans, and that food is not gluten-free, vegan-friendly whatsoever. And so that was a real struggle for me. But at the same time, it kind of forced me to eat foods I'm like freaked out about. I had my own like weird coping things for that, which aren't healthy, but it was doing something. It was kind of like
And I think that's where you see a problem is when it's fine to eat healthy. Like, we should eat healthy as a society. But when you, let's say, are going on a road trip and the only thing that's available is fast food or the food at the gas station, and you literally would rather not eat anything than eat something, like, your body needs to eat something. It's better to eat something than nothing. But you won't. That's where it's like, okay, this is the point of balance, so that when I am in a food desert, I still have option. Like, I can still find the better option, even though it's not perfect.
I'm just interested personally about, like, how do you do that? Because, like, I don't do that.
Yeah. So I recently went to Missouri. I was freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, there's no, like, it's a food desert. It wasn't. I was freaking out for no reason. Oh, that's so hard. What did I do? Personally, I did prepare. Like, I Ubered to, like, a grocery store and picked up, like, snacks and, like, small things I knew I could eat.
Do you think being with Max helped you?
For sure, because he has, I think, like, a pretty decent relationship with food. Like, he's never mentioned anything to me. Like, he'll eat late because he's hungry. Like, he won't not eat because it's too late, or, like, he doesn't have any rules around food. Like, but he does try to eat well. Okay, I low-key don't have that much balance.
Like, sometimes I understand, like, I will do that too, but then it's, like, the guilt I feel about it, or, like, the feeling of I have to walk or work out now, or, like, I have to flush my system with water, or I have to take X amount of supplements to, like, you know.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean, because I'm like, I can't wait to go back home and get back to my routine, because I don't like what just happened.
You know what's funny? It's so, like, interesting that I'm realizing, like, again, that I know it's bad right now, but I used to love going on vacation. That was, like, my favorite thing ever. And this year, like, I don't like it. I've been trying to think, like, why, but it's because I'm out of my routine. And nothing is now in my control. When I go to a city, I gotta eat. So if there's no food options for me, like, dairy aside, like, obviously I can't have dairy, but with the gluten, with the refined sugar, with the oils, like, sometimes you don't have a choice. Yeah. So it's like, how am I supposed to do that? Well, I'm gonna just go through it, and then when I go home, I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna eat super clean, be very stressed out about it. Like, that's been my reality, and it sucks.
Literally, like, now, like, I feel like I've had so much sweets, and, like, Max bought me cookies, love him, but did I originally want? I feel like if it's like not my decision, it's really hard for me, because I'm also a people pleaser, and, like, he bought me cookies, I'm gonna eat the cookies, but I wouldn't have bought the cookies. I love you, Max, sorry, but I wouldn't have bought in the cookies because like, I know it's in the cookies.
Do you mean people pleaser, like, you'll eat it because
I'll still eat it because they bought it for me? And, like, they are like those cookies aren't that bad. There's like there's one or two ingredients that I don't like in them. Would I have originally done it? No. There's definitely, like, moments where I don't know, Hannah. Like, I'll just, like, eat it.
It's hard, yeah. But, like, what is your feeling like after you eat it?
Oh my God, I'm like, oh, I need to go work out. I need to literally eat what I deem healthy and clean, quote unquote clean, until I feel better. And it's like, I never feel better.
You know, it's interesting, and it just made me think of, like, the control thing, but I talked about it in therapy a lot. What I eat is very healthy, and it's not that much portion size wise, but to me, I'm equating it to I'm not in control, I'm being irresponsible, I'm letting go. So I feel like that sometimes with going, like, traveling or, like, being around friends, am I gonna still be in control, or am I gonna, you know,
like, do things you wouldn't normally do and kind of go off your feeling of going
and
off
that goes into, like, fat phobia and stuff. There's a lot of things that go into it, I guess. But when I was in college, I would come home really drunk and finally eat because I wouldn't eat all day. I was a very shy eater. I lived with girls that were very short and, like, not my body type whatsoever, and we just ate different. And I was very scared to eat foods, like, ever. So the only time I felt like actually comfortable enough to eat food was when I was very drunk, because kind of, like, my walls were down. And so I feel like I went through phases with that of just, like, closet eating, kind of, because I was very embarrassed. But I don't binge eat. It's just a matter of, I think it's more fat phobia for me.
Yeah. My therapist and dietitian explained to me was, like, I thought it was binge eating because I was eating 2 dinners. But that's because I was making up for all the other meals I wasn't eating that day. It wasn't a binge. Like, a binge, from the book of what I can understand, is like thousands of calories in one sitting, and you kind of black out in the moment. Versus, like, what personally I was doing was just eating 2 serving sizes because I was depriving myself an entire day of food. That would have equated to 2 meals versus, like, a binge. But I'm always afraid of binging, even though it's not something I struggle with.
Yeah.
Like, I feel so bad for the people that do binge because I know it's people put a lot of shame on themselves for it when like it is just equally an eating disorder, and like you deserve just as much help as someone with anorexia.
Absolutely. I don't think it's like if you're a binge eater doesn't have to mean you look a certain, like I just feel like it's a very like shamed on eating disorder. Just because you're anorexic doesn't mean you have a certain body. Just because you're a binge eater doesn't mean you have a certain body. So I think it's really important to just like be really easy on yourself in that way. I went in my own spiral of like, oh my God, I have no control. Like, what am I doing? You know, I'm just eating way too much sugar. And it's like, hello. And especially like if you don't eat all day and then you're hungry at night and you have a little more dinner and you freak out, it's like, what? Yeah. Like your body is hungry. Like just freaking feed it, you know?
I remember like texting you being like, oh, my health coach like wants me to eat a snack before dinner or before bed. When you told
me that, I was so scared for you.
Really?
Because not for you, but like that freaks me out.
Yeah. Oh, because of like why?
Yeah.
So basically I talked about this in my blood sugar balancing episode. Like my cortisol was my blood sugar was dropping or spiking, one of the two, between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. and I was unconsciously waking up. So she wanted me to eat a piece of deli meat and a small snack that had protein and fat in it. The first night I did it, I haven't done it since. I felt so uncomfortable because usually I crave sweets at night, and I was eating some like an hour or two before bed. I was eating a savory meal. I'm so afraid of binging because I know like how uncontrollable it is, and like I don't want to struggle with another freaking eating disorder. And it just like felt like that because I wasn't hungry and I was like forcing myself to eat something. I personally, like for multiple reasons, like healthy or not, don't like to eat before bed, and it was really uncomfortable and I haven't done it since. But it wasn't a binge. I literally needed it to keep me asleep throughout the night.
That's like so honest of you to say, because it's like I agree with like the nighttime thing, like eating before bed, like absolutely not, you know, but then sometimes it's like you do, and like I know personally it's not only gonna mess with my health, but like my sleep is gonna get messed up now, you know, like there's more things, but like it's mostly mentally, like it's just a game at night. I can restrict all day, but then it's at nighttime and I'm like, okay, it's interesting. It's like the fear of binging, because you know, like once you do it, the more you were explaining like the blacking out part, like I've never had that in college, but that's a fear of mine, like just completely going off the rails and like losing complete control.
I can't even watch videos of people explaining their binge eating or like movies because I'm like, oh my God, it's my subconscious. Like, I'm so afraid of it. It's like an irrational fear, I think. Because I'm like, oh my God, what if I accidentally do it now that I know what it is and like what it's like?
It's just such a control thing. Like everything with me, at least, is just control.
Yeah.
I'm not in control. Like, look at what it's doing to my life. Like, I'm absolutely not in control. Because if I was, my quality of life and my health would be so much better.
Yeah. It's such a like touchy subject.
What like freaks you out?
When I was recovered, I was so open about it on social media. And what's like funny, because this just like popped up on I've been like posting my drafts to my friends on TikTok. The video was like a trend, a question, and then you put like some deep ass thing in the middle, and it went viral. I got like 2 million views on this post.
When was this?
This was like 2 years. This was when I was like, it foreshadowed my relapse. Okay. Basically, it was like, do you like Pilates or weightlifting better? Are you Pilates or weightlifting girly? It's like me doing Pilates. And then the middle says, I'm afraid that I'm going to relapse one day. Like, it's always in the back of my head. And then it's like, I'm a Pilates girly. I woke up and it went viral. I stitched the video last year and I was like, haha, you did relapse. Like, I never posted that.
Oh my God.
But I was like, I literally foreshadowed that. I was thinking about it because it was happening.
It was
basically
happening.
I've had 2 videos go viral literally based off like eating disorder, like body image things, which is like weird. I hate the eating disorder community it's not even eating disorder community. It's like people literally fully pro Anna on social media. It's so bad for my mental health.
Of that.
Are you on that side of like social media at all?
When I am, it's because I want to be. Like I actively look it up.
I had a whole separate TikTok for that.
But yeah, that's really hard. That's so hard to even say. It's just hard to say things out loud. My algorithm isn't that, but like when I do like watch that stuff, it's because I'm actively choosing it. It's not just because it's popping up on my For You page. It's because like I need to get like re-inspired.
I know what you mean. I deleted my my second TikTok because I was like, because the more you interact with it, like literally if you wait, you watch it for 1 more second, it comes back.
I stopped scrolling on TikTok because it was just so bad for my mental health in so many different ways, and you don't have control on what video you're going to see. That's what I don't like about it. And things trigger you, and it's crazy. It can just totally put you in like the wrong mood just because of one quick video that you just swipe through.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I have so many bones to pick with TikTok. Okay, we just took like a 15-minute break because the camera needed some more space. Fully honest, I think I fully disassociated, I think is the right word. Like I had no emotion, and I totally thought I was gonna cry during this episode, and it was gonna be really like personal and emotional for me. And so it was nice to like reset and me and Hannah to talk.
I feel like I just like blacked out that whole conversation. I was saying very like crazy things that I just like don't say. So I just want to reiterate, like, this might come off easy to talk about, and it's not. This is very embarrassing for my own ego. It's hard, and I'm very embarrassed and scared, and it's not fun. I think like sitting with myself just now was like very important because this isn't easy. It's not easy regardless how long you've been going through it, but like it's just so fresh for me, at least right now. Like it's a lot.
I think like knowing that anyone can listen to this episode, the reason why like I wanted to make this episode was because I felt like there was a gap in the conversation that I wanted to fill, or like I personally wanted to hear one day. There's a reason why I haven't talked about it yet. Like I've had a podcast for a year and a half, and like this is a topic I used to be pretty open about, and because now I'm back in it, I was a lot more embarrassed this time and a lot more lonely. My bestest friends I've known for years, I've never mentioned an eating disorder. Like they can look online knowing I had one, but I would never mention it to them in person. So sharing this with however many people listen to my podcast is scary, especially my family.
Yeah. I think it's just overwhelming because it's like we're just having a conversation, but like I haven't even really let myself think about people listening to this. And like I just told you when we were like off camera, but like thinking about my Instagram, and like I'm just contradicting myself. Like I go by Nourished Girl, but here I am like having eating disorders. Like what does that say? But I think it's just real. Anybody can struggle. Anybody. Even people that you don't think are struggling might be struggling.
And I think that's the importance of talking about it, because I know so many people don't think I struggle with what I look like, what I eat, and it's like this is a daily thing. I think this is what I think about majority of the time, and it impacts the quality of my life, and that's what's not good about it. Even like myself wanting to become a health coach, I also feel like, oh, what am I to say to help someone if like I can't even help myself? I don't want to help people with eating disorders, but like still I'm giving people like wellness and nutrition advice, and like what am I doing?
That's how I felt. Like I've been stalling with being a nutritionist and one-on-one with people because it's like I don't have my shit together. Like I don't have a period, my skin's still breaking out, I deal with X, Y, and Z disorders, body. I don't want to help people. I'm not in a place to do that. So it's like it's motivating to like want to do that, but of course it's like, how am I going to get there? I have no idea.
Like it seems so far away.
It does, but it's also like it makes me so sad to talk about this stuff, and like holy crap, like that's so sad. Like why this is becoming so real for me, and it makes me just so I think the sadness that I'm feeling for myself is going to help me go in the right direction, because I don't want to live like this. Like I don't deserve that. Like no one deserves that.
Yeah. I wouldn't take it back, because I have such a deeper empathy for people now, and like I see someone who's struggling and like want to help them so badly, and I understand what they've been through because I have or are going through it, and I know like my place, my passion will eventually, like this will be beneficial. Obviously I'm not there yet, but I know there is a reason, and like it's gonna, good will come out of it. It's just not now.
Absolutely. And I think it's just awareness nonetheless is like that's life changing in itself. Like just being aware and not being in like the repetition and the rabbit hole of it.
Yeah.
Like just actually being aware with yourself, and like, okay, maybe it's like you're not trying to recover yet, but like you're just aware of it. I think that's more than great.
I think that when you're not aware is like the scariest part. I see I remember telling you like, oh my God, I'm so triggered all the time. Or like sometimes I even wish I wasn't aware, because I'm watching my close friends do things they think, I don't know, will help them with weight loss or help with their health, and it's disordered. Like it's so unhealthy. It's actually going to hurt your health. And sometimes I wish like, oh, I could go back to that, because I'm so aware, like anything I do, whether it's good or bad, I know I can't just do things blindly anymore.
I think something also important to talk about, because we were just talking about it, but if you do struggle and you have a friend that struggles too, like how to navigate that, because I feel like there's a very fine line with like enabling each other and then just supporting each other. And like I just asked you point blank, like, is our relationship even healthy, or are we just telling ourselves that? And I think it's like it's real, because like I could just say it all day. Like, I know what it's like to just kind of be fake in a friendship and just say things because you believe them in the moment, but then taking a step back, you're like, oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You said we're not saying these thoughts out loud. We're not like eating and then going, oh my God, I'm so fat. I feel so bloated. Oh my God, I just ate way too much. Like, we don't say that around each other. And I think that's so helpful because I've had friends in the past that are very verbal with it and it's super triggering. And I think that we relate to each other so much more than either of us thought we would have. I think our eating issues, they're not the same, but I think they're very closely similar.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like my friendships in the past who've struggled with disordered eating and eating disorders has triggered me an insane amount. And like navigating friendships going forward is really important. Just for my own mental health. It's hard to navigate with someone who is unaware. And I think why we work is because we are aware and we know what triggers we personally have. So we just probably assume it would trigger the other person. Right. And we don't verbalize what's going on in our head and don't do our, I don't want to say rituals, but like our coping mechanisms, I would say in front of it. Like I'm not walking on my treadmill with you while you're at my house. Like that's weird.
Like we're challenging each other, like me being on this trip, like we're going to be challenging each other in different ways that like we might not recognize in the moment, but like it's good. It's good to like challenge yourself. I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think that if you do have a friend who's struggling, like you can only do so much for them. You can only encourage them to go to therapy or like read a book so much because if they're not aware of it, they can't help themselves. But like obviously you love that friend dearly. I also think like you have to put yourself first, come back to that friend when the time is right. But like even when we were friends and I knew you were struggling and you weren't ready yet, like I don't know. Like
you didn't make me talk about anything. Like you didn't push me. You didn't try to like, especially because like you've had a lot more like resources than I have. Like you've had a lot of experience in this space, like, and I just appreciate like you haven't pushed anything on me. Because I know it's going to be in my own time, as I know that for you. And I think that like it's just so important to give yourself the space too. Like if a friendship is triggering you or things just trigger you and whatever, like give yourself space to like have those boundaries and like leave. Even if it's just temporary, like maybe you can come back later, but it's just, you have to prioritize yourself.
I had a friendship where we both were aware what we were doing was toxic and we like made everything off topic or off the table, like food, eating, all of that stuff. We literally didn't talk. And what I came to realize was because we trauma bonded over eating food, losing weight and all this stuff. And we had no friendship underneath that. Like it literally, we were just enabling each other, whether it started like that or not. And so you just have to like evaluate, like, why are you guys friends?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What do you actually like about them? Why did you guys become friends in the first place? And like, you are right. Like I had a lot more resources at my hands and I'm so grateful for that. And I think that's why I am oddly aware, like maybe that's why I got them, so I can like hold my friend's hand sometimes.
Yeah, like you literally inspired me to start therapy. Like, hello, are you kidding? Literally. And you didn't even tell me to do therapy. Like I just did it because you just made me feel safe enough to, like, I'm not crazy for doing it.
I think like that's the beauty of transparency, and that's why this is what I don't talk to my friends very commonly say that a lot, but I realize when you start doing something and you're open about it, that opens up the door for people to come to you to talk about it or like just normalize to try it themselves. And it doesn't even have to be like mental health. Like sometimes like me just eating like a healthy meal, or no, me going to Pilates and posting about going to Pilates all the time, I can count like 5+ people that started going to Pilates because I always posted about it. I always talked about it. You naturally will influence people to do like things that are good for them by you talking about it, by you doing it. Like you don't necessarily have to talk and push.
Like you don't have to tell them to do it. Yeah. But like by you doing it, they're seeing that.
By me naturally telling you like how great therapy is, what I've learned in therapy makes other people curious about it and want to try it for themselves, versus me saying like, you have to go to therapy. And I used to do that to people, and I'm glad like I flipped it.
And I think like having conversations like this, it's like, yeah, we might not be telling you like how to fix it because like maybe like I don't know, but it's again just like it's something. It's just, you're so not alone in anything. You're not freaking crazy. You're not weird. You're not broken. Like it is what it is. Like we're human. It's opening doors, and maybe there are doors you haven't opened yourself yet, but like you can. And it might be scary as whatever, but like it's gonna change your life eventually, hopefully.
only good can really come of it. I hope. Also, like, I wanted to ask you, how did you open up to your parents? Like, I've never opened up to my parents. How did you do that?
I just said it. I think after they saw me have the ulcer and then after they saw me faint, I'm like, okay, I know they've known about it for years, but they've just never approached me. And I kind of wish they helped me, but I don't know if they thought it was like as bad as I knew it was. But after like I almost fainted in front of them, it was like, okay. So I remember like asking for anxiety medication. I just walked out in the living room one day and was like, hey, like, what do you guys think about this? And they're like, great. We're so happy for you. Whatever, we'll support you. But then the eating disorder, I've never really said it like straight point blank to my dad, but to my mom one night, I was like, hey, just so you know, I've been researching and I've been like doing whatever. And she's just like, whoa, you know, but I just had to say it.
Yeah.
And like people are going to perceive it in different ways. Like that's a lot for a parent to hear and it's hard. And like my mom's had to see so much that like I wish she hasn't seen, but it's part of my healing journey. And that's when I have to be selfish. Like you can't spare people's feelings. Like I don't want to make my parents feel like bad parents because I know that's how they're going to take it if I tell them I'm struggling, but I just have to be selfish and like they're going to take it how they want. You got to just like, you don't have to tell your parents at all, but for me, I've needed to.
I think I haven't done it because my parents are a huge reason why I've struggled so much. The reason why I don't tell people what I struggle with is because I don't want their reaction. I've gotten so many negative reactions from people you would think would know better that it's like completely shut me down. It's nice to hear from someone who was like, you were strong enough to be like, I just need to tell you. And you were so close with them too.
On the flip side though, it's like because that conversation has opened, I will say like I think my mom especially, like her perception of like what eating disorders are is very skewed from mine because it has changed over the years, like just how we view and like the stigmas around it. So she'll say things sometimes thinking that she understands where I'm coming from and she doesn't, and I can't blame her for that. Like just because you open up to someone about it doesn't mean that they're going to understand it, and you can't be mad at them for that. Like I don't even really try to correct my mom because I don't need to. She just knows, and that's all that matters. But she doesn't have to completely understand every little thing. Like, I don't need her to. So I think if you want to open up to someone, great. But then don't expect them to be perfect to, like, understand you.
Yeah.
Just because they have, like, a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I definitely need to do that because it's better to open up than keep it in. You can only get so close with someone by not sharing.
I think it's just healing for you to not like keep it in because you don't have to. There's so many people that just are there for you.
I'm trying to think like what else.
I think that's good. I don't know. Like I don't think I need to say anything else.
I'm like so shocked I didn't cry.
I am too, kind of. When I was sitting back, I thought I was going to cry. Like I was ready to, but it's like, it's just fine. Like we're just strong and we're brave and it's fine. Like
I think this is like actually really impressive. Also, I feel like I'm not talking to you.
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like I'm talking to somebody.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Like,
it's okay to disassociate. I think I am too in a way. Like, I haven't looked at the camera this whole time because I can't think about it.
I think it will open up the door for me to share more.
And you can, like, have your, like, it's your podcast. Like, you can decide what is, like, right for you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't owe anyone anything. Like, you don't have to talk about things you don't want to. But, like, if you want to, you can.
The reason why I wanted to is because it felt like I had this big secret. Like I was withholding literal information. I felt fake to not talk about it because it is such a big part of my life, especially like the body image part. Like people perceive me like in a certain, like this. I went to Pilates and like 2 days ago, and I felt like shit about myself. Like sometimes I work out in a sweatshirt because I like do not want to look at myself in the mirror. And the instructor comes over to me and she's like, "Do you go to the gym?" And I'm like, "No, I just do Pilates." She's like, "You look amazing. Totally thought you like go to the gym, not Pilates," she meant. I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then I'm thinking to myself, that's crazy. Like you can think so badly about yourself, and then someone thinks they would want they want to look like you. And it's like, what?
When you look at yourself every day, that's the hardest thing. Like we're in our bodies for the rest of our lives, and like that's hard because you're gonna just.
And I don't want to hate my body for the rest of my life.
No, but I also don't want to look at my body the rest of my life. So it's like, how am I supposed, like, how are you supposed to be stuck in this body forever? Like, that's very overwhelming. Yeah. Especially if you hate it. How's that going to,
how do you like come to terms to that? Yeah. More therapy.
More therapy. It's so hard talking about stuff. Like, it's just, I don't know why I've been so open about mental health, but this is just so much. It's just a lot.
It's because it's not talked about, so it seemed, well, at least to me, it like seems scarier because it's like more of a, like, this is a mental health disorder, but nobody really talks about
You know what's interesting too? It's like I'm much more confident to say I have anxiety and depression. One, because I do, but
Yeah.
it's also like it's not a physical manifestation.
Yeah, you can't physically see it on someone.
So I feel like me saying that I do, it's like have eating disorders. It's like, okay, now people are going to look at my body. Now people are going to be judging me and like thinking like,
What are you eating?
Or what, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a scary thing. Like you have to not be confident in what you struggle with, but it's like you can't belittle yourself and like gaslight yourself.
Totally.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, it opens the door for judgment when you share things.
I didn't even think about that.
It's gonna be okay. We're gonna wrap this up because we need to go eat dinner.
Yeah, I know. It's like 9 o'clock.
It's literally it's like 8:30. Yeah. Thank you everyone who listened. I really appreciate it. I hope this episode was helpful in some manner. Just know like my DMs are always open and like you're not alone and there are people who are there for you and want to hear what's going on in your life. I'll try to like link what's helped me. Thank you, Hannah, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm proud of you. I'm super proud of you.
I'm more proud of you.
This sucks. I hate this.
What are your socials?
My socials Nourished Girl with 2 Ds.
On every platform.
On every single platform.
She is my inspo.
You're my inspo.
Okay, guys. Love you so much. Please share the pod episode with someone who you think it would be helpful towards.
Love you.
Bye.